that's impossible. Instead, only try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
There is no spoon?
Then you'll see that it is not the spoon that bends, it is only yourself.
Dreams, they feel real while we're in them, right? It's only when we wake up that we realize something was actually strange.
Have you ever had a dream, Neo, that you were so sure was real? What if you were unable to wake from that dream? How would you know the difference between the dream world and the real world?
Hello and welcome to a Simple Path to Wellbeing podcast. My name is Paul Garrigan. And today I'm going to be talking about a dreamlike relationship with reality. And this is just another way of describing what I mean by well-being. So I laid out the different aspects of well-being, or what I mean by well-being, as intimacy, trust, and wonder. When those three things are combined into a relationship with reality, it creates this dreamlike relationship with reality. And I'll go much more into what I mean by that as we go along. Now, this dreamlike relationship with reality is what I was looking for all along. That's this sense of ease with life. Because that's what it is. See, that's the thing I notice. I've worked a lot with dreams in the past. Like dreams always, like nighttime dreams. They really pulled me. I really felt an interest in them, and I got into stuff like lucid dreaming and that kind of thing. But one of the things that stood out for me in particular that always really puzzled me, and I've mentioned this before on previous episodes, is that I'd be on a dream in a beach. And while I was on that beach in the dream, I would be, completely engaged with the beach. But when I go to a beach in real life, it would be very different. That I'd be on the beach and I'd have all of this other stuff going on that had nothing to do with the beach or being on the beach. I'd be worrying about where I was going to be going after the beach, and I'd be thinking about my previous memories of being on the beach, or I'd be making plans about coming to the beach more. Stuff that really had nothing to do with being on the beach at that moment. And so what dreams taught me, one of the most important things dreams taught me, that I was taking a lot of baggage around with me in life from moment to moment. It was like I never arrived at a moment freshly like I did in a dream. There was always this huge baggage about the past and the future that was kind of there with me. And one of the big changes for me is that's diminished hugely. That sense, I don't know if it's ever possible to completely get rid of that baggage. And maybe it wouldn't even be practical, because that baggage can actually help us in a way navigate our life, but it's diminished to a very, very quiet voice, and it's the instead of it being the most important part of the experience, it's become more like the least important part of the experience. So it really does feel like that this ability to fully engage in what's here without so much baggage. So that's one way that when I talk about this dreamlike nature of reality and well-being, that's what I mean. That's just one of the ways. So this dreamlike relationship with reality was something I desperately saw for most of my life. And it drove a lot of my behaviour. You see, I could remember had memories of having a similar experience of reality as a young child. That's what my memories of being a young child often involved. It wasn't so much what was going on, it was more this relationship with life and the fact that things seem so dreamlike. Then, in my early teens, when I discovered meditation, that was what I was looking for. I was looking for a way back to that. And sometimes meditation would seem to be bringing me in that direction, but I didn't really know what I was doing, so it was very, very hit and miss. Then I discovered alcohol, and alcohol seemed to be much more reliable, at least in the very beginning. And I remember one morning in particular when I was about 15 or 16, I remember walking back one morning and I was still drunk. I probably crashed at someone's house or something, and just feeling so at ease with life. Just feeling this sense that everything was okay and that life seemed so full of possibility and all of that. I mean, that only happened, a few times in the beginning with alcohol, but was enough to really sell me on it, because that's what I was looking for. I know people turn to drugs for different reasons, but that's why I initially turned to alcohol and later on other drugs, because that's what I was looking for. And so the great thing for me in my journey is that despite the many things that didn't work, I eventually found something that did work. This thing I call well-being. So one of the ways of describing the journey to well-being is this ongoing loosening of our grip on reality. You hear people talking about losing your grip on reality as if it's a bad thing. And I know what they mean. They kind of mean becoming dysfunctional in relation to reality. But this word grip, when we consider it, I mean, it certainly has some negative connotations for me, this grip. But for most of my life that was happening, there was this grip on reality. And it was this grip that was making life so intense and making it so painful. And as that grip loosened, everything became less intense. And the less intense it becomes, the more dreamlike it becomes. The more easy to be with it becomes. The more it contains stillness. And it's moving from this clinging, this gripping of life. That is the journey. This is something that was recognized within Buddhism. I've been very influenced by Buddhism. It was a big part of my journey. That the central teaching of the Buddha was that our suffering is caused by this clinging onto life. And what that does is it makes everything seem more real, more intense, more painful. But of course, the opposite is also true. That as we learn to loosen that grip, it becomes less painful. One of the Thai teachers at Ajahn Chah, he would say, if you want a little bit of peace, you let go a little bit. If you want a lot of peace, you let go a lot. If you want complete peace, you let go completely. And that's what it's all about, this loosening of our grip on reality. And what helps us start to do this is to start to see how our reality is created and how it's created very much like a dream. And I don't want to get into philosophy or metaphysics here, but I'm saying this as how it actually is, that we're not seeing what's there. We're seeing our interpretation of what's there. And that interpretation has a dreamlike quality because just by changing the way you relate to it, it changes. One of the important things, one of the practices that I did for a long time was metta, or loving kindness meditation, where you're developing this sense of friendliness towards reality. And the amazing thing is that, say when I would do that, I'd wake up and maybe I was in a kind of low mood, that I would just do that meditation for a while. And nothing had really changed except that I would be relating to what's happening differently. And because of that, everything would look different. The whole world would seem different. Just purely because I shifted in the way I related to it. And this is kind of part of the teaching on emptiness, that you start to see that our perceptions are empty because they're dependent on how we're interpreting or how we're relating to things. And just by relating to things differently, things change. Or another example of this was when I was struggling years ago with my business. And just in a matter of seconds, I went from this being completely overwhelmed by what was happening to this other way of looking at it, to see it as this incredible bring it on challenge. That, this is a challenge, this is fantastic. And loving that sense of having to face the challenge. A lot of what I do in regards to my mindfulness coaching, it's often taking people on a journey of perception, from a journey where they feel completely at the mercy of life, where that life and other people are destroying them, to moving to see that basically what's happening now can be a gift if we can learn to just relate to it the right way. That it's not life treating us the way we want that brings us peace, but learning to always be able to relate to life in a skillful way. That's what brings us peace. Because the conditions out there are constantly changing. One of the problems with this grip we have on reality is it makes everything, as I say, more intense. And one of the way it does this is that we pay so much attention to this dialogue in our head, or the thinking, or the judging part of our mind. And I was explaining this to somebody recently, and I was saying it's almost like, I don't know if all you guys will remember this, but I know during the 90s when they first brought out DVDs, whatever it was, when they first brought out DVDs of movies, they'd sometimes bring out this other DVD where you would hear the producer or director, whatever, talking over what was happening and explaining how the scene was being created. So not only did you have the movie going on, but you also had the conversation of the people behind the scenes going on. And I don't know anybody else, but I watched one of those for about 10 minutes and I just couldn't watch it anymore. It was driving me insane. But I think that's for a lot of us, that's what our experience of life is. Not only do we have the experience of life, but also there's this conversation in our head about how that perception is being created. And so all of that, the mind is judging this, how this thing should be, how this thing shouldn't be, what should and shouldn't be happening. And that the more that we're aware of that, the more uncomfortable life becomes. Because it means we just can't enjoy the experience. We just can't enjoy this kind of movie of our life because we're too aware of that noise. So part of that letting go is that noise just turns way down to it's barely noticeable. And because it's barely noticeable, it just doesn't disturb us in the same way anymore. So the more we struggle against life, the more we have this conversation in our head about life, the more real life becomes. And the less we do that, the less real it becomes. Not in any way dysfunctional way, but in a happy way, in something that we're actually, for at least many of us, are actually seeking. So we can actually enjoy this experience of being alive. And so we can start to see just how incredible it all is. That anything is there at all. That the most simplest things, like a flower or a tree, is breathtaking. The fact that it's there at all. And the only reason we can't see that, I think, is because of this conversation in our head about what should and shouldn't be happening. This director's cut that we're all tuned into. Like insight into the dreamlike nature of reality means we don't cling to it so much. We start to know that what I'm perceiving is very much related to the way I'm relating to things. And that there's a lot of wiggle room there, a hell of a lot of wiggle room there, that I can actually shift things so I perceive things differently. I can kind of move into different perceptions. And this is very important to see. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe. They're also available now on YouTube. You can visit my YouTube channel. If you would like to do coaching with me, I would love that. Just get in touch and we can set something up. And I'll see you again next time. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream.